Hello, viewer. Good morning and welcome to our class today. Now, a class of oral literature. Now, remember that oral literature is just but a mirror of a given society. Every society has its own way of living, how they earn their living, how they live together, and also political activities of that particular community. And we can learn all about our communities through oral literature. And oral literature is passed from one generation to another by the use of the mouth. That's why we call it oral, meaning it's passed by the word of mouth. Now, oral literature is divided into three parts. We call them forms or category or genre. Now, number one genre is oral narrative. Number two is what we call short forms. Number three, we have what we call oral songs or songs. They're also called oral poem. Now, today, I'm glad to introduce a class of oral literature, specifically talking about the short forms. Very good. Now, short forms. Short forms, we're going to learn that they're divided into they're examples of short forms. Now, number one example is what we call puns. Number two, we have what we call proverbs. Number three, we have riddles. Number four, we have tongue twisters. And then we have jokes. Let's talk about the puns. Now, what are puns? A pun, kindly write it down. P-U-N, full stop. That's a pun. It's also called a wordplay. And a pun is just a form of a wordplay that suggests several meanings by either exploiting the multiple meanings of a word or substituting a word for another similar sounding word, that is in bracket, homophones, the result of which is humorous. That's why we call it a wordplay. A pun is also known as paranomasia. Underline paranomasia. Now, there are two types of puns. We have number one, homophonic pun or puns, and lastly, we have what we call homographic puns. Let's talk about homophonic puns. Now, this is where a word is substituted for another similar sounding word or word pronounced almost in the same way. Remember, students? Homophones. In short, homophonic puns, they basically use homophones. And what are homophones? Similar sounding words. An example of a homophone, you and you. You, it's a homophone of a you. Let's spell you. E, W, E, you. What's the homophone of E, W, E? It's a U for Y, O, U. That's a pronoun. Now, let me give you an example of a homophonic pun. Fishermen are real men. I repeat, fishermen are real men. Now, what's an explanation? A simple explanation of this example. Now, there's a twist of the word real, which is originally supposed to be spelled real. That is, the word that I used, it is real. Fishermen are real. R-E-E-L, real, not R-E-A-L. You see, back to our definition of a homophonic pun is similar sounding words. And we've seen how similar real is to real. Can you explain the pun in the following homophonic puns? Number one, let me give you two. What do sea monsters eat for lunch? What do sea monsters eat for lunch? That's a question. Fish and chips. Explain. Now, number 2. I am on a seafood diet. Every time I see food, I eat it. Seafood diet. Every time I see food, I eat it. I like this, the last example. Why did the scientist install a knocker on his bell? He wanted to win the Nobel Prize. Underline Nobel. Now, let's get to another type of homophone. That is it. That is. I told you. Remember as the beginning. I told you we have two types of puns: homophonic puns, which we've already discussed. Now, number 2 type of a pun is what we call homographic puns. Now, homographic puns is formed by using word that has multiple meanings. Now, students, what are words? What do we call the words which have multiple meanings? We call them homographics. Thank you. Homographics or homonyms. An example, we have rose. That particular word, rose, yes, it's a noun. You can call a person and you can call her Rose, that's a woman, a name of a woman. The same word, rose, you can use to identify a flower called a rose flower or a white rose flower. Now, an example in a sentence. Let's use rose. Rose is the flower of my life. Now, explanation. The word rose is a female name. As I said, it could be the person the speaker loves. It is also a type of a flower. Now, other examples are my math teacher called me average. My math teacher called me the average. Full stop. How mean? How mean? Number 2. What do prisoners use to call each other? What do prisoners use to call each other? What can be the answer? Cell phones. Number 3. No matter how much you push the envelope, it will remain stationary. Lastly, have you ever tried to eat a clock? It's very time consuming. Now, students, let's look at a few features or characteristics of puns. Now, number 1, they're short. Like for example, an example of a pun that I gave you. Rose, using the term rose under homographic puns. Rose, what did we say? Very good. Now, rose. I love rose. For example, I love rose. I could mean a person. I love that person, or I could be saying I love a type of a flower called rose. They are short. They are also humorous. Look at this. Let me give you an example of a homographic pun. Now, I am reading a book about anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down. It's impossible to put down. What a humorous homographic pun. They are always humorous. Now, let's look at the function. What do they play? What role do they play in our society? Now, they serve functions as teaching pronunciations. For example, homophones. Real, R-E-E-L, and then we have another real, R-E-A-L. Also, they enhance creativity. Yeah, one has to think in order to form their puns. Creativity. And lastly, they are entertaining. When said, one wonders what the speaker intends, the audience automatically laughs back. Now, learners, viewer, kindly attempt this assignment. Now, just give me an explanation of the following puns. Number one pun: I used to be a banker, but I lost interest. Number two: a bicycle can't stand on its own because it is too tired. Too tired. I repeat, a bicycle can't stand on its own because it is too tired. And lastly, Santa's helpers are known as subordinate clauses. Until next time, wish you the best.